Well, hello and welcome back to On the Tee with H&B. I'm DJ Jones, Major Haversham's Lieutenant for Social Media, coming to you today from Prestwick. As the birthplace of the Open Championship, Prestwick is home to an abundance of golf history. But as anyone that's played the course will tell you, it also features one of the most daunting opening tee shots in golf, courtesy of the railway pressed hard against the right side of the first fairway. We have no doubt that the H&B forces will not only have a memorable day, but that none of them will find the Glasgow Express train. As we do each week, we'd like to salute a handful of our latest field reports from the forces. If you are traveling on an H&B expedition or just happen to find yourself on a famous links across the pond, tag us anytime at Haversham Baker. We'd love to see your field reports, and you just might find it on an upcoming episode of On the Tee.
Of course, I loved it when I came here last year. It's a great place to play the Scottish Open. It's a great place to get ready for the British Open, and I thought it was very instrumental in my success last year.
Really to come and enjoy Castle Stuart. I really liked it last year, and I got the family up here at Skibo, staying there for the week. So it's really a nice week up here in Scotland. So looking forward to it.
So today we are heading back to the Highlands of Scotland for a visit to Castle Stuart. The new kid on the block in the region, Castle Stuart is a four-time host of the Scottish Open and has quickly become a must-play for anyone visiting this region. We recently sat down with Jeremy Matt, Castle Stuart's Director of Golf, and we hope you enjoy the listen. Well, Jeremy, welcome to On the Tee with H&B. Thanks for taking the time to join us this morning.
Daniel, it's really nice being part of it. Glad that you guys wanted to include us. And the last time I was on the tee with you was probably a couple of years ago out here at Castle Stuart.
It was a truly memorable day, some great memories there, and there may even be a story or two to share from that day. But before we get to that, Castle Stuart has just kicked off its 10th season. How are things shaping up for the year so far?
So far, so good. It's been a little bit of a cold spring to start with, but as you can see behind me, we've got blue skies now, a bit of heat coming into the Highlands of Scotland in the next week to 10 days, which is nice. Start getting some 70 and 80 degree days, which means the grass will start growing again. And I think the season ahead is shaping up for a busy one in Scotland and the Highlands as well, and certainly here at Castle Stuart. So we're looking forward to the season ahead.
Well, all of us at H&B are looking forward to another memorable year, but before we look ahead, tell us a little about yourself. How did you come to arrive at Castle Stuart?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, Daniel, it's real. I'm just a caddy made good. I moved down to South Carolina many years ago, and I needed to pay the rent while I was furthering my education. And I did that by applying for a caddying position out at the Kiawah Island Club in South Carolina. Worked for a great company back then that specialized in running caddy programs. They trained me as a caddy trainer, certified in Pinehurst, North Carolina. Became a caddy manager, moved up to Rhode Island to a lovely place called Carnegie Abbey. Ran a caddy program there for 5 years. And as part of running that caddy program, was lucky enough to get involved with other operational aspects in golf. Did the same thing, moved over here to the Highlands of Scotland. And the club that I worked at in Rhode Island was a sister club to Skibo Castle up here in the Highlands back in the day. And I met a lovely girl from here in the Highlands. And when we found out we were having a baby girl, that's when I started to apply for jobs in Scotland. And really just got so lucky that Castle Stuart was opening in 2009, 25 miles away from my wife's hometown of Dingwall. And I was hired here back then as the caddy master in 2009. Moved up to golf operations manager in 2010, and lucky enough to be promoted once again to director of golf, I think in 2014. So just a lucky guy from upstate New York that gets to call Castle Stuart his home now.
And what a place it is to call home, but a caddy made good. Hard to not love that phrase.
Yeah, the neat thing about that is that I've seen the business from the grassroots up. Still heavily involved in the caddy program. We just had our inaugural meeting, our yearly meeting for the caddies just today for the season ahead, and talked about my days of caddying back in Kiawah Island. So still very close and dear to my heart. I don't get to do as much with the caddies as I used to. My golf operations manager, Keith McPherson, who used to be the caddy master down at Queenwood and Sunningdale, he does the majority of the day-to-day operations, and that includes the caddies and the caddy training, but still something I'm fairly close to.
Fantastic stuff, and a perspective that no doubt trickles its way to the caddies in the field, Castle Stuart being home to one of the finest caddy programs around. So we mentioned earlier that you're starting your 10th year. In many ways, some would argue you have managed to transform the Highlands as far as a destination for golf. But for those who are unfamiliar, since you're still the new kid on the block, give us the 101, if you will, for Castle Stuart.
I think the biggest thing about Castle Stuart for folks that are coming to Scotland or coming to the Highlands, and one of the reasons why we're a bit of a can't miss, at least in our eyes, in our humble opinion, is a great golfing experience. It's not just the golf course, top 100 in the world. It's a little bit of a design ethos that's different than others. It's tested the best in the past with 4 Scottish Opens, but it's playable for the rest, and that your 18 handicaps aren't going to come out here and lose 18 golf balls. They're really going to enjoy the round. But I think, the experience that you have here, we're not a traditional members club that you get in a lot of places in Scotland. Everybody that comes and pays their green fee and is here for the day is a member for the day. And we take pride in that. And I think, testimonial to folks that have played here before would tell you the same. It is really a lovely experience. You've got meet and greet at the front door to say hello. And it's just, we really know how to look after people in a very informal kind of way.
So you touched on the ethos of Castle Stuart, and on your website there is a fascinating documentary called Finding Castle Stuart. It's about 45 minutes long. I have no shame in admitting that I've watched it 3, maybe 4 times. But for those who don't have 45 minutes to invest in a documentary, go into that a little further if you would. How would you define the ethos of Castle Stuart?
Well, a short version of that is enjoyable, fun golf. And, Mark Parsonen, our developer, our co-designer, along with Gil Hance, they wanted to make a golfing experience where people could have memorable moments out here on the golf course. There is width in the fairways, and we're in a very open site here, links golf, where a 2-club wind is the norm, and sometimes it gets a bit blowier for that. So for your average golfer, guys like you and me that can play off of anywhere from 5 to 20, it's great that we've got that width in the fairways and the options of the tee boxes and whatnot. Mark also talks about the seclusion of holes in that documentary, how each hole is into its own. You don't feel like when you're playing down the second that you're going to hit into somebody on the 5th. Every hole is into its own. We can have 240 golfers out here and you wouldn't know it because you have each and every hole to yourself. So it's really a neat experience. But I think the biggest thing with that documentary that comes over, it's a neat place to play. It's a fun place to play. And when you come off the golf course, really, you come off the 18th and you just want to go straight back to the first tee. There's so many courses that have been built over, the last 15, 20, 30 years that actually when you come off the course, you need 2 pints just to regain your sanity. And we're just not one of those golf courses. It's one of the things Mark wanted to pride himself on when he came here to the Highlands, is that he wanted to have that same feeling when you walk off the 18th at Castle Stuart that you have after you walk off the 18th at the old course, a course that's so dear to his heart, that he always felt like when he walked off there that he wanted to go back to first tee and do it all again because it's fun. It's not just punishing and tough, but it's actually fun and enjoyable. And he wanted to bring that back to golf. That was a foreign aspect 10 years ago when we opened, and that's why that documentary was so important to us. And yet now, 10 years later, you hear so many other course designers and people in the industry that talk about, let's get participation up, let's get the enjoyment factor of golf. Even Keith Pele at the European Tour, that was one of the big things that he brought into the European Tour as an ethos. How can we get participation up? How can we make golf fun? And certainly that's something that we've talked about for 10 years now.
Well, it's a sentiment that is repeated again and again by our members of the forces, as we call them, just how enjoyable that experience is. And in fact, even in the documentary, there's a quote, I think it was a group of ours, 32 golfers had played the old course in Dornoch and Castle Stuart, and the consensus pick was that Castle Stuart was number 1 out of the bunch. And so it's a real testament to what you've managed to craft there and deliver on a daily basis that not only makes them want to come once, but makes them want to come back again and again.
And that's one of the great things about golf, isn't it? Is about everybody has their own favorites, and one of the things we really love about the Highlands as a destination is the way that the courses actually complement each other quite nicely. They are different golfing experiences. Traditional links, 9 in and 9 out. Obviously Royal Dornoch being top 10 in the world, and then you come to a modern links, and actually in the Highlands you get a really unique golfing experience, whether you're playing Nairn, Castle Stuart, Dornoch, Brora, throw into the mix as well. It's a nice experience up here in the Highlands, and we're just happy that we've been a part of that the last 10 years, and that hopefully we've helped bring even more visitors up to these other golf courses as well.
Well, the backdrop there behind you tells a lot of the story of Castle Stuart. It is a place with just one show-stopping moment after another. This year, as usual, there's a number of our members of the forces heading your way. What should the first-time visitor, or even somebody who's back for a second or third experience, be on the lookout for throughout their round?
Well, there's a lot of memorable holes, starting right from the get-go. You walk down to the first tee and you come in behind the first tee box, and you've got the Firth to your right and the Keswick Bridge, looking at you as well. And you're playing these coastal holes that are right down along the beach. The drivable par 4 third. You've got the castle on the fourth. I would encourage anybody that's coming over to get on YouTube and check out the shots that Phil Mickelson hit, on the third. And then again here on the 18th behind us, the par 5, his winning chip that he had in 2013 before he went on to do the double at Muirfield. So, the professionals have their memorable moments, and then, but the great thing is that, again, your 16 handicapper has plenty of opportunities to have memorable moments as well. The drivable 16th very often plays downwind, and even from the kind of, the green tees that most players play from, it's 320, but it plays 320 down breeze, and you can run that ball in right to left, and even your 16 and 18 handicappers have an opportunity to go out there and make eagles and make memories. And that's what this game is all about, having fun, making memories with good friends.
Well, given that we're in the memories business, Jeremy, you definitely hit the nail on the head there. And speaking of memories with friends, we promised everybody a story at the beginning of this. A couple years ago, I made my first trip up to Castle Stuart. You were kind enough to show me around the links, and we played a friendly little match, which, as I recall, was pretty even at the turn. I think I might have been one down. And on the 10th tee, your drive, as we're seeing here, was bound for the Moray Firth. I thought for sure it was my opportunity to close the gap, but instead your ball found a famous Castle Stuart tee marker, a stone along the shore of the Firth. It bounced back into the fairway, and my hopes of closing that gap were officially dashed. I think I went on to lose 4 and 5, maybe even worse than that. It was pretty ugly for a while there.
I do remember that being a pretty close match, and both of us playing well on the front nine. I think it has to be pointed out, Daniel, that once you play here a few times, you get to know the nooks and the crannies of the golf course. And I kind of knew that position down on the beach there would throw the ball back out in the middle of the fairway. So some might say yourself that it was a lucky bounce. For me, it was a calculated risk.
A little inside knowledge. Well, I'll have to keep that in mind next time.
And if I remember correctly, like you say, the match was closed out fairly early. So I'm glad that you said that me. And then I found myself in some more trouble on 16 as well. I found myself in a lovely lie, hit a poor tee shot short and left off of 16, and found a really interesting lie there. So it was probably just as well I closed the match out on the 14th or 15th, because I certainly wasn't going to win the 16th, with the lie that I found there.
Well, we're all getting a look at it here, and I mean, to me, the lie looks pretty straightforward. Well, shifting back to the links, Castle Stuart has proven over the last decade that you're never one to rest on your laurels. Tell us, what's next for Castle Stuart?
Yeah, like you say, we certainly don't rest. It's always moving forward, trying to get better. We've made tweaks to the golf course over the years, adding bunkers here and there, taking others away. We only have 42 bunkers on the entire golf course, so we're very critical of where they are and where they shouldn't be. So going into last season, we removed the bunkers short and right on the 6th green to make that green a little bit more playable to your average golfer. We just thought it was much too penal. Moving forward in this year, we've not made any major changes on the golf course itself, but we are really keen to further development here at Castle Stuart. We have big plans for a dormy house hotel, 67 bedrooms, big plans for a second golf course as well. As I mentioned to you earlier, our owner and developer Mark Parsonen has just arrived in today. He's here for 6 weeks, and he's out on the grounds right now with our course manager and our general manager. So they're out on the ground right now as we speak.
Well, we certainly look forward to seeing what's next, and if it's anything like the first go-around, we know it promises to be something truly special. But more than anything, Jeremy, thank you for taking the time to join us today. We know we got to let you run. There's a group coming in there behind you, and I'm sure you need to run and shake some hands, but thank you for being with us today on the Tee.
Hey, listen, we look forward to inviting all the majors guests here this year and all the forces coming over from Haversham and Baker. So can't wait to have them, and many more to come in years ahead. And I'm also looking forward to having another match with you, Daniel.
Well, I'm game anytime you are. Thanks again, Jeremy.
Cheers, buddy.
Special thanks once again to Jeremy Matt for joining us today. If you'd like to keep up with the happenings at Castle Stuart, we suggest giving them a follow on social media. They are at Castle Stuart Golf Links on Instagram and at Castle Stuart on Twitter. Be sure to join us next week as we continue our little tour of the Highlands. But until then, we thank you once again for joining us, and we wish you plenty of golf at its finest and life at its best.